So I just remember sitting there with my dad once, and talking about kind of where I was, because I was in my journey. I wasn't really, I was seeing progress, bro, and I was getting better. I knew it. I just wasn't seeing, the money or whatever. And I was talking to my dad. I was like, and I had this conversation multiple times with myself in my head. I was like, dude, sometimes I wish I was just normal. Like, I wish I could just go get a job and just, work there. I wish I could just find a beautiful wife, right? And live a normal, like, happy life. Because, like, sometimes, like, life just, like, life just gets to you sometimes when you're going through it, bro. And I remember it wasn't like this level of thinking was permanent. It was definitely like a temporary thing, because I deep down in my heart, I know I could never live that kind of life. But when you're so down bad, at certain points, right, and you feel like nothing's happening, nothing is progressing, is it like damn, right? And you start to question everything. Like I started questioning everything, which is, a really good thing, to question anything and everything, to really break down your beliefs, why you thought certain things, where you've adapted certain concepts from. But it's just like, when I was thinking of this time, and I had this conversation with my dad, and I had this conversation with myself multiple times. I was like, bro, like, what if I just pursued my fucking passion, essentially, right? And in that, found happiness in a job, going there every day, coming back home to a wife and some kids, like having a family, right? And I feel like that was kind of the biggest contribution to why I thought this way at certain times, right, temporarily, because I was like, dude, I'm getting so consumed by just having, I don't want to say money, but having the betterment of me and becoming the kind of man I need to become in order to get to a certain point of life, and just being so focused on work. It was like, I wonder if I'm fucking up and sacrificing, and I know this is true because it's happened multiple times. It's like, I wonder if I'm fucking up and sacrificing, like, having a beautiful family at a young age, and having a wife, a kid, right? And just, like, because ultimately, I had to think about this multiple times. It's like the money doesn't really matter, in a way, right? It's like the thing that really matters is family. And that was true, but also the other way on thinking about this, and this is why I ultimately was never permanently thinking in that concept, is because I was like, dude, if I don't have money, how the fuck am I gonna afford to provide for my family, right? Because I want the best wedding, I want the best wife, I want the best of the best, right? But then in congruent to that, like, in just like the opposite, arguing to that point, it's like, I know the money doesn't matter when you have a beautiful family and a beautiful wife, right? Like, the girl you really want, the girl you're really looking for, doesn't care about how much money you essentially have, to an extent, right? And you make shit happen. You kind of figure it out. Like, that's how do most poor people figure it out? Like, they just figure it out, right? Like, you'll in some way, shape, or form kind of make ends meet, right? And you still have your family. And so it was always like just the constant pull of, like, both of these arguments side to side. And I think that's why I had this temporary way of thinking, and in my journey, and going back and forth and having these conversations with my dad, with myself. It's like, sometimes I wish I could be normal, but it's almost like you've been cursed with knowledge. You've been cursed with understanding things from the outside, realizing and knowing the matrix, right, and what the system has done. And I don't even want to call it a curse, it's a blessing, right? Because I don't like to put things out there like that, and I have to have a certain way of thinking, and a certain perception, and a certain, I would say, like, what you put out there is 100% what will like what you will attract and what will come out. Your perception dictates your reality. And so just in having this conversation consistently in different points of time, was it like fuck, dude, is what I am sacrificing worth it? Because I mean, bro, like it wasn't just that, right? Like it was the friends, and like to an extent, obviously, like we can sit here and say you don't want to be friends with the brokies, right, and the people that have a certain way of thinking, but at the end of the day, like a lot of the times the friends I had and the friends you probably have, like the boys never really care about how much money you have. It's like the real ones, they'll break bread with you, they'll split their meal with you. And like if they were friends with you back then, if my friends were friends with me back then, I was broke, like why were they friends with me? Because we were actual like friends, right? And then sometimes, again, in argument to this, I'm like, damn, like I'm sacrificing my friends. I no longer essentially like have those friends, the family, right? Because all my attention is going into work. I don't have the best relationship with my direct family. Like when I say family, I'm talking about my future family, and then family, I mean my parents, grandparents, cousins, all those things. I'm like I don't have the best relationship with them because all I ever do is kind of just focus on not wasting time. And as fucked up as this sounds, like hanging out with family, a lot of the times, I don't want to say this out loud, but I kind of have to. It's like a lot of the times hanging out with family is a waste of time to an extent. It's like, I always say, somebody asked me this question on Instagram. It was like work-life balance. Like, can you spend 50% of your time hanging out with your family? And I was like, I don't think so. Like, I don't think that's possible. If I spent 50% of my time hanging out with family, like, yes, don't you think I would love to do that? I would love to just sit there with my family. But simultaneously, of course not. Because of all of that time, 50% of your time, if you took that into putting it into staying locked into your business, into the gym, into your mindset, into like what needs to get done, it's like, bro, who's gonna win? Who's gonna outwork you? Who's actually putting more attention into where it needs to go? And so that's why it's like there's so much sacrifice, and this is why this conversation came up in my head multiple times early on, because it was like, dude, is what I'm doing worth it? I'm throwing almost everything and anything in the garbage for this one goal, for this purpose. But ultimately, the answer to that question is yes. For me, it's yes. 100% it's worth it. Because once you truly, I don't want to say achieve, but once you get so far ahead, once you are rolling so deep, once you are making so much money, once you have developed so much, then what, right? Then everything is basically like done forth, bro. That's why like it's a couple years of sacrifice to have like a lot of, for the rest of your life, to be basically taken care of, right? Because once you reach a certain point, it's just like, again, the standard has raised, the money's coming in, it's a normal day and all these things. And what I was getting at with that is like, for me, that's worth it, right? Because everything I'm doing is in correlation to everything I'm sacrificing, right? Like once you make 100K a month, like my family is well taken care of. Nobody in my family will have to ever work again. Like my parents are going to be happily living in Europe or wherever the fuck they want, getting that black American Express card or whatever, Chase, JP Morgan, whatever the fuck it is. Just go buy, spend whatever you want, as long as it's not 100K a month, and so forth and so on. And so ultimately, it's like, yes, it is worth it. The marriage, the wife, it can wait, and it's just the trade-off, right? It's just what has to be put on hold. It's not the forefront of everything that I'm doing to find a wife at the moment, because you get to a certain point in the journey where, as I mentioned, like you're already so deep, you're already so far and past the point of no return where, like, if you did try to go back, it's like it would take more effort to go backwards than just finishing. And once you get to that point as well, like, there's a certain point you get to where this becomes fun. This is the new life. This is the new everything. And so, right, it's like now I wouldn't have things any other way, because you enjoy work. You get to the point where all you want to do is work. All you want to do is get better. Like I say all the time, if something isn't in direct correlation to, like, me getting better, like my happiness, essentially, like combining those two, it's like I'm not gonna fucking do it. I just want to improve in every facet. I want to conquer in every single aspect possible, right? Like, you have to have this this unfucking comparable, disgusting need to just outcompete, outwork every single person. And that's like the only thing ever on my mind, is I need to be the fucking best. It's at this point, it's not even like an I want anymore, right? Like with the gym in specific, this is kind of just the easiest example. It's like, if I don't look good, if I don't look the fucking best, like obviously not like bodybuilder level, but like if I don't look fucking amazing, if I don't look in the mirror and I'm like, this is a fucking Greek god, I'm disappointed. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I need to look better than I need to be better than everybody in every facet. Like, there's it's weird, because this might come across as crazy or selfish or whatever. I don't even know how to break this down, but it's like, I need to be better than everybody. It's not I want, right? Because in the beginning, it's like, yeah, I want to be the best. I want to do, no, I need to be the fucking best. I need to be making the most amount of money. I don't care what room it is I walk into. I don't care what it is. I need to be that fucking guy, right? And so, throwing this back to the beginning of the conversation, it's like, in that, do I wish I wasn't blessed with this knowledge? Do I wish I wasn't wish I was normal to living in a regular life, that happiness? It's like, no, it's not. And this is why the answer to that question is always going to be yes, it's worth it. For me, the sacrifice is worth it. And I don't even want to recommend this to anybody, because there's so much sacrifice, there's so much bullshit that you have to go through, that I don't even know if I would recommend this to anybody, because I know how hard the journey is. I know how much sacrifice you have to go through to really achieve all of the things you want to have. Like, the best way to think, like, the best way for me to get you to understand my levels of thinking is, my last name needs to be fucking remembered. Like, it needs to be remembered, right? I'm essentially going to die as a legend, or die trying. I always talk about, like, great conquerors, as far as just think of any great conqueror in history. Like, that's the level I need to be at, and I will be at eventually, with time, by just consistently trying to outwork everybody, by consistently trying to outperform in every single facet of life. They always say, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And this is so fucking true, because I promise you, when it comes to when you're doing something, really pay attention to the detail you are doing it to. I don't care if it's washing dishes. I don't care if it's doing some of your bigger projects. Think of the small things. How do you place things on your desk? How do you, all of these things. And I think that literally does dictate what kind of a person you are and how much you want to achieve. And so it's consistently just like these levels of understanding this. And there's a quote I heard. I don't know at what point in my journey I heard this, but I think it was originally Alex Hermosi who I heard this from. He goes, what you're thinking about sacrificing and debating, the next guy already does, or isn't even like thinking about it. Like, he's willing to sacrifice what you're not. And so kind of thinking in that realm, was it like, all right, I have to be willing to literally sacrifice it all, everything. And it's crazy because these levels of thinking are like damn near unhealthy, because when I think of sacrificing everything, I think of like everything, like the worst of the worst. I'm not talking about like time, I'm not talking about like small things, I'm talking about like sacrificing real fucking shit. And so that's why, like, the answer to this question is like, you know, if you've been cursed or blessed with knowledge, and is everything worth it, it's always going to be yes. And that's ultimately, when I had these conversations with myself, when I had these conversations with family members, whether it was my dad or whoever it was with, it's like the reason I'm still obviously actively pursuing this life and I don't go to college, I don't have a regular job, is because the answer to that question was like, no. I don't want to live that life. Again, like, I understand the sacrifice necessary, that I'm maybe not going to have a family at a young age. And I even thought about this. This is so funny, bro. Like, the levels of thinking, when you really start to spend a lot of time by yourself and you just think, it's crazy. That's why I say you can't get too caught up in your own head. It's like, I've had times thinking about, like, I'm going to be so wealthy, right, and so successful, that, like, when I get to that point, how the fuck am I going to find a girl that really wants me, not for what I have, right? And then the answer I got to that question was like, oh, it's fine. I'll just find a girl that comes from a wealthy family. Like, she's already used to money. It's the average. Like, there's so much stupid shit that I've just consistently thought of, bro, over the years. Because I'm telling you, when you go through the journey and you're so down bad, and you're questioning everything, there's like just so much that goes through your fucking head, and the sacrifice and the result. And this is why you can't get too caught up into like, when that happens is this and this and this. And then that's why the only thing I really do today is think about conquering today, right? It's thinking about winning today, because you can get too caught up in that, where you're thinking about the future, you're thinking about the past, right? Like, literally in this conversation, what's happening, I'm thinking both in the future and in the past. So where's my attention? Where's my attention not? In the moment, in today, right? I wish I could be normal. I wish I could go to school. I wish I could have that family. What am I referencing there? The life I could have had, right? If I was in college right now, maybe graduating with a bachelor's degree, essentially pursuing like graduates to go to orthodontist school, whatever, dental school. Thinking about life and the college experiences I could have had. And then as well as thinking into the future of like, oh, just going to work every day, coming back home to a family. It's like, this is why I have adapted the level of thinking and the level of really attacking your life with, you have to just be focused on what actually is valid at the moment, and that is today. Because when you lose track, when you get too caught up in the past, you get too caught up in the future, you tend to miss things that are right in front of your eyes. And the things that are right in front of your eyes are what are going to dictate tomorrow. I always say you transform tomorrow today. What you do today will dictate tomorrow and where you are going. And so this is why it's so important for you to consistently track everything that you're doing. Have a vision, have goals, have daily tasks in line with those visions and goals. So you know at all times you're being self-aware. Where am I actually going? What am I actually trying to get? Right? And that's another thing that I want to touch on before this video ends. It's like, a lot of you are going about life, and I was the same way at certain points in my journey, where you need to think of what you're doing as you're holding a gun and you're trying to shoot a fucking target, but you don't actually really know where you're trying to go in some way, shape, or form. And so you're trying to hit like a blurry target that's moving, that's bouncing back and forth, that's blurry. And so it's like, how do you expect, like, what would be easier, to try and hit that target, or to hit the target that's clear in one place, not blurry at all, stationary, and you just shoot, aim, and hit it, right? And so a lot of you are going about that way in life. It's like, you might be questioning things like I did. It's like, maybe the answer to this question for you is the sacrifice worth it? Maybe it's not clear to you because you're thinking about all of the sacrifice, but you're not thinking of the target. You're not thinking of the goal because you don't really even know what it is. And so it's like, you don't even have something to really compare the sacrifice to. With me, the reason why the sacrifice is worth it is because I know exactly the return, what this will yield, right? What the outcome of this will be. And so when I compare the two, it's still a yes for me every single time that the sacrifices are worth it, because then I can take care of my family, then I can take care of my future family, then I can take care of everybody and anybody, then I can live the life of doing whatever the fuck I want all day long, working all day long, working on shit I actually enjoy working on, building the businesses, becoming a fucking legend, right? But having my name fucking remembered. And it's funny when I say this stuff out loud, because in a way it's like, I was just talking to my parents about this yesterday. It's like, I'm not doing this for anybody, right? When I say my name to be remembered, I need to be the best. I need to be legendary. It's like, a lot of people might think that I mean that for outside validation. And like, oh, I want my names to be in the history book so other people can remember me. Like, no, I don't give a fuck about anybody at all and what they think of me, right? It's more so just like for myself. I always say there came a certain point in time in my journey where I was like, I don't care about anybody's opinion anymore. I don't care what anybody thinks. I'm just going to unapologetically be myself, and everything that I do from now on is for myself. And that's why the journey becomes so hard, because you're no longer doing things for anybody except for yourself. And so you cannot let yourself down. So it's like, I'm doing this all for myself, and then in correlation to doing this for myself, will it benefit everybody around me and everybody that I care about? But you have to be selfish to be selfless. Otherwise, you're going to try to fill other people's cups, and your cup has no fucking water in it. So there's nothing for you to give out. And with that, nobody wins, right? So boys, hopefully you took something valuable from this video. Just giving you guys a little bit of a deeper insight into my mind and the ways of thinking that I have evolved and adapted over the years. And maybe gives you some motivation, some clarity, some structure, whatever it is that you took from this. Love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.